gas stoves, unfortunately, they're better for cooking, but they can be unhealthy. And people need to realize that when they are cooking with gas, they need to have proper ventilation.
There's a condition called mast cell activation syndrome or histamine intolerance. It's like we all have a bucket of, you think about a bucket and we dump histamines. And we get histamines from outside and we can get them from certain foods. And everybody has a threshold of how much histamine their body can get rid of, right? So it's about, if somebody has this condition, there's a lot of people that have undiagnosed histamine intolerance. It's about not putting too much histamine in your bucket in a 24-hour period.
I didn't realize this. I drink a lot of seltzer, and I was drinking a lot of cans. On the inside of, I don't know if they're all, but most cans, there's a plastic lining. So you're still drinking out of plastic. So I have moved over to drinking all of my carbonated water out of glass bottles.
Really?
Yeah.
You're killing me.
All right, so I wanted to do an episode on environmental health impacts and things that are all around us that can be causing problems in our daily lives.
Before somebody tunes off to this, Nick, because if I was watching the beginning of this, I might tune off. Can you rattle off a couple of things the things that we're going to talk about, how they can impact somebody that's into fitness and nutrition?
Well, I'll just say that the major topics that we'll be covering are the air quality in your home, which is, really important for everybody, and also the chemicals in your life that you might be using or might be surrounded by that you don't even realize are impacting, your whole system from top to bottom, and especially for children, but for adults as well. These things can be really impactful, and they can affect, your cognitive ability. They can affect, your lung capacity.
Right, and for the fitness-minded people that watch this, they can definitely be hormone disruptors, and that's going to grab the attention of our viewers, because everybody knows the importance at this point of optimum or a robust hormonal profile in the body, and these chemicals can wreak havoc and lower some beneficial hormones and raise some not so beneficial hormones. Like, just for example, any of our male viewers, it can raise estrogen and lower free testosterone. That is not something that you want for optimum health, muscle, and cancer prevention.
That's right. That's right. Now, one of the things that I didn't realize was that indoor air quality under certain circumstances can be 2 to 3 times worse than the worst outdoor air pollution that people are surrounded by. And there are a lot of things that can impact that in your house. Candles. This is a problem. Cooking with gas. This is a problem. There are a lot of different things like that that can really be impacting the air quality in your home. And like I said, if you have children in the home, they're really susceptible to these kind of things. And animals too, pets, different things like that. You got to really be careful. Different perfumes can be bad for people. I mean, these are things that we're just so used to using all the time, lighting up a candle, putting on perfume, doing all these things, and they might be really impacting our day-to-day life.
It's true. Mrs. Lynch is going to get mad at me on this one, but we have had not fights, but arguments over the years. 5-minute argument. She loves candles. She's big into fragrances and stuff like that. And there's been times, Nick, where we're literally watching a movie and I'm having a tough time breathing. And I don't know why. And I'll pop up off the couch and I'll see she has a candle burning on the stove. Maybe she cooked some salmon, or maybe one of the dogs.
And there's some candles, they smell amazing. I really like the smell.
Absolutely, but there's something on some of the candles that she's burned over the years where I actually feel my throat is closing and my breathing is labored. And when she turns off the candle and we open the windows, 10, 15 minutes later, I'm breathing normal again.
Well, so paraffin candles release benzene. And this is not something that you want to have.
Say that again?
Paraffin candles, which are like wax candles, they release chemicals. Benzene is one of them. There's also a little bit of a soot that's released when it's burning off. And this is not something that you want to be ingesting when you're, in your house, because the windows are closed. It's the wintertime. You're burning a candle. It might smell nice, but it's putting chemicals into the air that are not good for us.
Wow. That's crazy.
One thing you can do is, and they have candle warmers, that instead of burning the wick inside of the candle, it kind of heats up the wax so that it still releases a little bit of the scent without so many of the bad chemicals that are in there. But in general, it's not great. Incenses, candles, things like that, they really create bad air quality for people.
Right.
Now, another thing, and I have this, is a gas stove. Gas stoves, unfortunately, they're better for cooking, but they can be unhealthy. And people need to realize that when they are cooking with gas, they need to have proper ventilation. Even if it's the winter, you might want to open up a window. You might want to get some fresh air in there, because if you're just recycling that air and you're cooking with that gas, it's also releasing harmful chemicals into the air that can be disruptive for people.
I had no idea about that. I grew up in Hicksville, and we had electric there. And I never knew about a gas stove. I knew that they existed, but when I moved into my home, I had a gas stove, and it does make cooking much easier, but now you're telling me, and we use a pressure pot or a crock pot a lot and stuff like that. So thank God we're not using the gas a ton, but I did not know that.
It releases nitrogen dioxide and carbon monoxide into the air while you're cooking, which is not something that you want to be ingesting all the time, honestly. You want to recycle that air, of course. Proper ventilation, turning on the fan over the stove when you're cooking with that. Not everybody out there has gas. Some people do cook with electric. It's a little more difficult. I did also grow up with electric, but now currently in the house I live, we have a gas stove, and I really try to make sure that I open up and get the ventilation going when we're cooking with that gas. There's also particulate matter that comes out with that gas, and a little bit of formaldehyde as well. And I don't think any of us want that.
Really? You know where they put formaldehyde?
In dead people.
Yes, Nick, that's true.
No one's out there looking to get more formaldehyde into their life that I know of. I haven't met anybody who is, but
The key to life is not to have formaldehyde in
you
your
don't want
system,
it.
because that's, yeah.
But another problem is, a lot of furniture that people buy, especially pressed wood furnitures, can release VOCs, which are volatile organic compounds, and formaldehyde for months to years after you buy them. So there is a price you pay for cheap garbage. If you're not getting like real wood furniture, or even sometimes with real wood furniture, these things can be releasing these VOCs into the air and the formaldehyde into the air for long periods of time, and creating an environment that is not healthy for us to live in.
This is crazy. I'm gonna tell you a story, and this is a story about what you're talking about, but also will add in the element of how much people can be pieces of.
Oh, go on.
Okay, so when I got remarried to Mrs. Lynch, she came along with a kid named Sebastian, my other son. We got bunk beds for the boys, Michael Jr. and Sebastian. We get this, I forget the name of the company. You're lucking out right now if you're watching this, because I would say your name of your company, but it was over there by Roosevelt Field. We bought bunks. Nick, this furniture came in, it stunk to high heaven. We called them and we said, hey, we don't know what the smell is, but it's atrocious. Okay, let it air out, it take a couple of days. P.S. A week later, it still smells. I didn't like the guy's attitude on the phone, Nick. He said, all right, Mr. Lynch, we're going to come in and we're going to get it and we'll get you a new piece. They called us and they said, oh yeah, we sent it out or whatever. And I just didn't like this guy. So I took a black magic marker. Pay attention to this. This tells you pieces of people can be. And I made little X's on the bottom of the desk and the bunks, because he said he was going to get me a new thing. A week later, comes back, brings it in, sets it up. The guy leaves. I look underneath. There's my black X's. He brought back the same thing. So he just took that furniture and let it air out in a warehouse, and it still smelled. And I call this guy, screaming at him. I'm like, you think you, I mean, I'll leave it because you just have to bleep and bleep. You can imagine what I said to this piece of. And the guy came and he came in with his own Mercedes. The owner of the company came in and was like, Mr. Lynch. I'm like, you have 5 minutes to get this thing out of my house, you piece of. He's like, how'd you know? I'm like, you see these X's? I made them. Get in that. Yeah, and he brought a whole nother piece of furniture in there, which smelled a little bit too. So it probably had
I mean, eventually a gas is off, but you're breathing all
yeah,
that in.
you're absorbing all of that.
Now they make paints, low VOC paints too, because when you paint, that's also creating an environment that has a lot of like chemicals that are in the air. So
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
you want to be careful, especially if, if you have a newborn or young children and you're painting their room, you want to try to look for like a low VOC paint.
Even when it dries out, it's still released?
It can still be releasing it for, weeks at a time. Yeah.
Okay.
Carpeting. Carpeting is another thing that you're like, what is this made of? Where was it made? And what am I breathing in when I put this carpeting into my house?
Yeah, and those are called off gases, right?
Yep. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but it's
where
not a pleasant smell.
know where I experienced it? Never with carpets because I have hardwood floors in my home. But when I laid the matting down in my gym when I first did the gym, the rubber matting.
Oh, sure. Who
Right.
knows where that was made or what
Yes.
chemicals made it or all
Yeah.
that stuff. And again, this can be for weeks, if not months. So it's not like you open the windows for a day. I mean, these are really things that you have to be mindful of.
So basically what we should all do is just live on dirt in the desert, in the woods somewhere.
That's what makes this so hard is that we all have to balance all of this with the reality of the world we live in,
Yeah.
right? What's available, what we have money for, what we can actually do, because we don't want to bankrupt ourselves getting stuff that is made with the best quality materials, but now we don't have money to eat, of course, right? So you got to survive, you got to live within your means, but you do have to be aware that you are bringing things into your house that can be really detrimental to, your whole cardiovascular system.
It's about lowering the load down, right? Like it's there's a condition called mast cell activation syndrome or histamine intolerance. And when you think about this, and maybe we'll do a video on this, it's like we all have a bucket of, you think about a bucket and we dump histamines, and we get histamines from outside and we can get them from certain foods, and everybody has a threshold of how much histamine their body can get rid of, right? So it's about, if somebody has this condition, there's a lot of people that have undiagnosed histamine intolerance. It's about not putting too much histamine in your bucket in a 24-hour period, because once it's filled up, it spills over and then you have the histamine response. And
Which is like having a response to like a pollen or something.
yes. Yeah, and there's certain foods and stuff like that. So it's like if you're allergic to a couple of things outside and you're mowing the grass, and then you have avocados and bananas and canned tuna fish. These are all foods that are high in histamine. The bucket fills up, and then the person breaks out with a rash, or they start coughing or sneezing, or they can't sleep at night, all these different things. And this is essentially what you're saying with these hormone disruptors and these chemicals. Try to minimize as much of it as possible because it all adds up.
Well, especially with kids who have asthma, right? And the rates of asthma increase exponentially when kids are surrounded by all of these like harsh chemicals that are around them. And if your child already has asthma, you really want to protect them from these type of chemicals.
Right. So it's not like living in a paper bag, but minimize the exposure. You don't want to have this furniture coming from Joe Shit the Rag Man furniture, and then having candles burning every day, and then a carpet that's letting off all these gases, and then you're probably running into problems sooner than later.
There are things people can do. You can get VOC testers for inside your house. They might run you between $50 and $300. There are carbon monoxide testers. Obviously, I think people are mandated to have that kind of stuff now.
I have one in my house.
Carbon monoxide is important. You want to make sure that you're not.
There's a little box that plugs into the wall. That you will, because you could not wake up.
That's right. That's right.
The house, yeah.
Mold is also a problem for some people, and you can get all-in-one testers that are looking for all this stuff: mold problems, CO2 problems, carbon monoxide problems. It's stuff that we don't think about in our day-to-day life, but can really be impacting everybody in our family, our pets, our kids, and ourselves.
Yeah, a big thing, an easy one to do that I'm kind of anal with, Nick, down in the gym and in my house, is the filters to the air conditioners. And we have actually air cleaners down in the gym, but I'm mindful to clean those literally every 30 days. And if you take those filters out, you'll have something to clean off every 30 days so you can see all the crap that builds up in those filters.
Well, I think one of the good things that came from the COVID years was that a lot of people got HEPA filters and air filters into their houses, their apartments, their offices, all these different things. And so if you don't have one yet, probably think about getting one. I have a really good one. I am not paid in any way, but I have a Rabbit air filter and this thing rocks. It's amazing. It's not cheap.
Yeah.
And, again, you have to balance what you have the ability to pay for and what you can do. There are cheaper ones that you can get. But when you look at the filter that you pull out of these things, when you have to replace it or clean it,
Yeah.
you're breathing all that crap in all the time. Even if it's just the dust particles or, the dander from your pet or whatever it is, this stuff is out there. But it's really important to have a good clean air filter, especially in your bedroom. If you're closing your door when you go to sleep and your windows aren't open, you're just recycling all that air. You want to make sure that it's running through some kind of an air filtration system.
Yeah, we have a Dyson in the gym and it runs all the time, and it's like a little robot. But it's funny, speaking about gym stuff, is if anybody has a treadmill in their house and in the basement, always take that treadmill and put it on an incline. You cannot imagine the shit that collects under a treadmill. I don't know if it's the magnets that are in the motor of the treadmill, but anything that's got electronics and has a motor from a fitness standpoint it's like a dust magnet. You pull up that treadmill, Nick, and you put it on a 15-degree incline, there's like dust bunnies and crap all underneath it, and it collects pretty quickly. And a lot of people don't think about that. They just go around and vacuum around it. So whether you're a house cleaner or you clean your own home, check under these areas and even under the couches and stuff like that. But wherever there's electronics, it's like
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
If you have a big computer, like a desktop style computer, and you never opened that thing up and dusted, that thing is probably full of the craziest dust bunnies you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And one thing that I do is I try to get most of my furniture on pads that make it easy to slide off and slide back into position.
Okay.
Because, we have a dog. I love my dog, but damn, that thing sheds like a crazy, animal, and there's just dog hair everywhere. And, we try to take care of it once or twice a week, and even still. So if you're not doing that, this stuff is building up and you're breathing it in, and it is impacting your ability to have a healthy life.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't want to hammer too hard on scented products, but a lot of people use this stuff, the plugins that are, burning the scented oils in your house. And it's not just candles, it's incenses. It's, really any scented product you use, it's usually scented with a chemical. So I'm talking about even, detergents that you're using for your clothes and all these different things, and especially perfumes. Think about what you are putting onto your body, around your body, into your clothing. You're ingesting all that stuff. And it's not made with, organic materials. These are all compounds that have been made inside of a laboratory somewhere to smell perfect, but not to be healthy.
Yeah, thank God I had it was probably gluten. And if you haven't seen our gluten-free video or our gluten video, go check it out. But maybe it was the gluten, Nick. But probably about 30 years ago, I was having a little bit of a rash, and it was driving me crazy. And I went to dermatologist, no one could figure it out. So like 30 years ago, I started using again, we're not getting paid by anybody, but Dove unscented soap. I use all free and clear that is just no perfumes, no nothing. Even my deodorant has no fragrance. I don't really sweat under my armpits. I probably shouldn't wear deodorant. I probably don't need it, but it's just habit. But all these things have no fragrance in them because I was trying to figure out what the rash was. So for the last 30 years, I've abstained from these by accident. But I'm happy knowing this information that I haven't been putting that stuff.
Shampoos, conditioners, lotions.
Yeah.
You gotta really, look at those ingredient lists. They're long, complicated chemical equations in there that you just don't really want to be a part of.
Yeah. Even I don't wear cologne when I train people, but when I go and get dressed up for a wedding or an event or something, I find myself spraying one or two pumps on my shirt. Like, I'll put on the
You're
collar
still
instead.
breathing it in though.
I know, but at least it's not getting in my skin.
You're
It's
not doing it every day.
yeah, I just and then I walk out of the room. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, these, we talked about it before, but these can be obviously triggering for asthma, but also migraines. So many people suffer from migraine headaches, which can be completely debilitating. And some of them are being triggered by some of these chemicals that people are ingesting through the shampoos, the conditioners, the lotions, the perfumes, the detergents, the dishwashing detergents. All of these things can be really disruptive.
And then not even thinking about that. They're probably going to see all these different doctors and maybe a neurologist, and they can't figure out. They're saying, hey, you're good. Everything checks out normal. Your blood work, your scans are normal. Meanwhile, it might be the perfume or the cologne that they're putting on a daily basis, if they're doing that on a daily basis, or the deodorant or something like that.
Now, plants can be helpful in this regard, but at a very low level, unfortunately. I mean, you need like thousands of plants in your house to really change that air quality. You got to have some kind of an air filtration system, that HEPA filter, a carbon filter, some kind of filtration system, especially if you live in a city where there are a lot of cars around you, just dumping out exhaust, trucks idling around where you're living. If you're in the burbs, if you're closer to the woods, I mean, your air quality is going to be better. But if people are living in densely populated areas where there's a lot of traffic around them, and you're a highway, different things like that, you really got to be careful about that air quality in your house. It's really important.
Sure.
All right, we talked a lot about air quality. I think that really is important. Water quality is also really important. And it's something that, you're drinking that water, but it's the water you're cooking with, it's the water you're showering with. There are a lot of points for people to be coming in contact with water that can be highly contaminated with chlorines and other forever chemicals and other weird things that you just don't want to be in your everyday life. Now, the problem is you can go with bottled water, but if that bottled water is sitting in plastic and that plastic has been heated up in a warehouse before it got to you, that plastic is leaching out chemicals that that plastic is made of into the water. So bottled water isn't a great solution either at the end of the day.
No, I know. And this is an important one for all the fitness people, because those have hormone disruptors. They have what's called xenoestrogens, and they can really screw up somebody's hormones. And this is not something that anybody wants to sign up for, because as we get older, we have to do everything in our power to optimize our hormones through sleep and nutrition and training. And we don't want to have anything coming in that's going to sabotage our hormones, doing the right thing by drinking more water. So what do they do, Nick?
I mean, you probably want to look into some filtration system. That's going to be your best bet. Now, they're not cheap. You can get the pitcher filtration systems. That's like usually a carbon filter that you put in the fridge, and that's going to be okay. You can have filtration systems that go under your sink that requires somebody to install it if you're not so handy. And then there's whole home filtration systems that actually filters the water that's from the point that it's coming in from the municipal pipes. Right? Because a lot of times that last mile of piping where it gets to your house is where you're really getting a lot of problems. But, people dump a lot of crap into the water systems. They're dumping old medicines down their drain. There's different chemicals from factories around you. There's chlorine, there's arsenic. I mean, when they test these water supplies, and everybody should do that. You should try to get the test of the local water supply around where you live, so you can be aware of what's in the water that's coming into your house. But certainly looking into a filtration system is really important for people, because ideally you should be able to drink the water that comes out of the faucet. And if you don't know what's in there, you might want to be careful about doing that before you do.
Yeah, so where I live is near a place called Grumman. Anybody on Long Island knows what Grumman is.
The plume.
Yes, but for the people, yeah, the plume. For the people, I had my house tested, and it was okay. But for the people that don't know what Grumman is, it was they would build airplanes, right? Back in World War II, I think it was.
And even up until the 90s, they were still building them.
Were they?
Yeah. I remember them bringing planes into the hangar early in the morning when we'd be driving to school. You'd see them coming back from their test runs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and they were cleaning whatever they would clean the planes with or whatever, they would dump in supposedly these chemicals right into the ground. And there's a war against the Navy and who's going to clean it up. And they're trying to remedy this thing, but I don't think they're doing a great job. So what they're doing is they're treating the shit out of the water. And when I first moved into the house, they gave me a notice. I was drinking the water. And thankfully, I wasn't drinking it for too long, but they had said, we're going to be putting chlorine in the water. You know, as a young guy, I was probably, when I bought my house, I was 30 years old. You think you're, bulletproof at that age. But I remember, Nick, they gave the date that they were going to start to chlorinate the water. And it was literally the next day I took a drink of water and it smelled like a swimming pool. And from that day, I stopped drinking my water. I've always got the water delivered to the house. And I actually drink water in glass. I drink mineral water that's in glass. But when I cook, if I'm cooking gluten-free pasta or I'm making rice or my coffee, I get a delivery system. I haven't drank the water in my house in like 19 years. Now, I'm still showering with it.
I was just going to say,
I'm still brushing my teeth with it,
Yeah.
but I'm not putting it directly into my intestines. And it's just, I'm willing to spend the money and they say it's perfect and they send these readouts that it's fine. Those are not dice I want to roll.
I realize that this can be a financial burden on some people.
Yeah.
But, look at your monthly expenses and think about all the things that you're buying for yourself that you either don't need or are not healthy for you. And then think about how important water is.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, these things can be really important. Having a good air filter, having a good water filter, these are really positive investments that you can make into your own health. They're really important for people. And I think, hey, get a swear jar going. Put a jar somewhere in your house and throw a couple bucks in there every once in a while. And before you know it, even if it's 6 months, a year, 2 years, you'll have enough money to buy one of these things. And everybody will be healthier in the long run if you do this for yourself.
Right. And now, I'll be honest, Nick, I'm not a square. If me and you were to go out and we were going to stop, and I was thirsty, I'm stopping off at a 7-Eleven, I'm getting a Poland Spring.
Yeah, of course, every once in a while, you got to survive. Yes, of course. I've had a bottle of water here and there, but just don't make it into your everyday go-to. I didn't realize this. I drink a lot of seltzer, and I was drinking a lot of cans. On the inside of, I don't know if they're all, but most cans, there's a plastic lining. So you're still drinking out of plastic. So I have moved over to drinking all of my carbonated water out of glass bottles.
Really?
Yeah.
You're killing me.
I know. It killed me too. Do you know how many cans of seltzer I was batting back?
You're saying that I got plastic in this right now?
Yeah.
Hey.
And these microplastics, we all know that this stuff's like, it might not be possible to avoid the microplastics at this point because we're just so inundated with them. I think everybody ingests like a credit card worth of microplastics every month that they're like,
What?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. They find these things in like Antarctica, like they find them everywhere. Everybody's got these fish have microplastics in them. It's not good, but try to minimize it where you can. And, bottles of water, cans of beer, cans of seltzer, things like that. You're talking about a lot of plastics there.
We're going food shopping tonight. I'm going to have to get my club sodas in glass bottles.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm gonna have to take a loan out from you, Nick. Nick's gonna make this episode's gonna make me go poor. Thanks, Nick.
Listen, you're not going to be able to change everything about your life just after listening to this episode, but I just wanted to make sure that people knew where all these things were coming from in their life, and at least they can start to make informed decisions about the things that they ingest.
Yeah, when you came to me, Nick, and you said, Mike, we should do this episode I was like, well, okay, Nick. But now I'm happy that we did because I feel like there's things that I'm going to change starting today. Like the shampoos and the conditioners, to be honest with you, I use the deodorant with no scent. And like I said, the soap. But when my wife buys me shampoo and conditioner, I'm a snob with the smell. You know, I like the way it smells, and now that's a change I'm gonna make. I'm gonna finish what I have, but the next time, do they even make unscented shampoos and conditioners? I'm assuming they probably do.
I think, and again, I'm not being paid by anybody, but Dr. Bronner's is usually like a pretty safe soap that you can use. I know that's been like a hippy dippy soap for years. I had it when I was young. It's a little expensive, but it does last a long time. And there are some others. I mean, look around, do your research, but yeah, like you said, the free and clear, usually it's called, the dish soaps, the detergents, things like that, that leave off those scents. You're going to be better off.
Because as we were going down this, I shower twice a day. I have to take a shower first thing in the morning to get myself going. It's like another cup of coffee for me. And then I usually work out midday and I get very sweaty. So I'm shampooing and conditioning my hair twice a day.
And that's probably drying you out too.
It's drying me out, but I'm rubbing that shit into my scalp. So who knows? Maybe my testosterone next month, Nick, is even higher because of you.
You're welcome. There was a lot more to get into, but I think we've talked a lot about just the air contaminants and the water.
Well, those are the major ones.
Those are the major ones, but we should do another episode because foods are a big piece of this puzzle too, and we never really touched on that. And this is
dyes, all that stuff. We'll get into that. We don't want to overload everybody where they totally hate us.
No, and this was an episode where I'm certainly no expert in this area, and maybe we can get an expert to come on. So we should actually look for somebody, a guest, to bring on to really dive deeper into this stuff. But let us know if we taught you anything in this episode, if there's something you learned that maybe you might shift or change in your day-to-day life, whether it is perfumes or candles or cooking with gas or, any of the things we touched on. I think all we want for our viewers is that they are living their best healthy lives, whether that's with exercise, with diet, or with the chemicals that are around them at all times. Anything to add before we end up?
No, I think you hit everything, Nick. And Nick is right. These things build up over time. So if you can just remove some of them, I'm sure it can make a big difference in the way you look and feel. Maybe not tomorrow, but within weeks and months. And listen, Nick, I've trained a lot of people over the years that have suffered from migraines. I had this one client that she would actually vomit and she couldn't show up to session. She would pay me.
Migraines are debilitating.
Yes. And who knows? Because she's gone, this woman had a lot of money, okay? And she went to all the best experts and everything, and they couldn't figure it out. And they were actually giving her Botox injections in her temples, in the temporal area, to mitigate or to minimize these. And who knows, maybe it was her favorite perfume. You just don't know. So this was actually an important episode. I'm happy we did it. So yeah. If anybody knows anything that we didn't touch on these topics and you want to add it to the comments below, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, tell us what air filter you're using, what water filter you're using, because, this is firsthand knowledge. If you're really happy with the product that you've used over the years and it's really beneficial to you and your family, drop it in the comments so the other viewers and so that we also can learn from you.
Yeah. All right, that's it. That's all I have.
That's all I got too. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
All right, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye. Please hit the like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any content in the future.